you. Good morning. I want to take some time in this situation to talk about something that's rarely talked about, but it's critical to talk about. And we're going to use common language. Hopefully the message will get across with the common language that we're spirits first. We can also add the connotation that we are ghosts first. And we are on the way to becoming, full-fledged ghosts without the body eventually, because we're here to die. And all of that is basically easy conversation. But the fact of the matter is, while we have uncertainties about our living and what's happening, where we are going, where things are going for us in terms of our karmic path or our situation, all of this is within our realm of security. See? Therefore, to know a little bit gives us some sense of security. And life as a human being is really about establishing some kind of security. And without security, whether that's psychic or physical, people don't feel good. So they need that security. When it comes to passing over, however, which is my point, you don't have any security because you have no control over that whatsoever. You have no guarantees, no promises. You just don't know. In other words, most people are here to die and they have no idea that they're even going to die. They have no idea that they're going to be ghosts, earthbound ghosts. They have no idea of that, regardless of what their culture tells them and all the rest of that. They're going to be stuck out here on earth. We're not saying for how long. But they don't have a compass. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to happen. We can say they're going to go into the darkness, the tunnel of death, which is what it is. And then what? And so one of the things that I mentioned earlier today was about the programs that are available relative to ghost chasers or ghost hunters and ghost adventurers and all the rest of this, which are entertainment programs dealing with the phenomena and the fact that there are people passing over every second and becoming earthbound. And these ghost chaser programs, these pop shows, these reality shows, are proving the fact that the ghosts are there and they can communicate with the ghosts. They can see the evidence of the ghosts, that these people, these beings, are stuck here on the earth. And they can carry on in their sort of entertainment manner, but they're not really helping these beings. See? So I'm not that interested in the ghost programs helping beings because it's entertainment. But as teacher, as guide, and as a born spiritualist, I'm telling you, we're spirits first. And we're going back into that realm. What are we doing about it by way of our living? For practitioners, then what you're doing is trying to identify with more the spiritual side of things, not the spiritual, the spiritual. Because you can be a spirit and be in darkness and be terrified by other spirits, as the ghost hunters are proving. That there's spirits stuck out here under the control of other spirits. And they don't know for how long. Could be thousands of years. Could be tens of thousands of years. Big question. When we're talking about cosmic time, then it could be vast spans of time. And we're talking about going into these realms and dimensions without a compass. So when the Buddhist teachings say human birth is precious, they're not saying enough. This is purgatory. That's what I'm saying. This is where you get a chance to really make a difference as to your quality of life and your quality of death and the quality of afterlife. Because right now you're all marooned to be ghosts. without a compass. That means subject to the circumstances of your life, your fears, your negative conditions, karma, blood conditions, or whatever, and the forces around you, and your ancestors, all together. So who knows? Is the point. We're not. Here we're getting training, serious training in the ways of the spirits and in the ways of the masters, so that we don't have to worry too much about what happens when it hits the fan for us and we have to leave this dimension, which is like tomorrow, boom, when it happens. Nothing you can do about it. So we're living in the suspense of it could happen at any point as spirits, and we can be recovered to that realm and still be nowhere, still be lost. See? One doesn't know to what degree your religion is really going to survive the experience. If you're going to have, let's say, the Jesus or the Buddha or something there for you, it depends upon the shock of your birth experience and how much after that you have to hold on to. And if your fears run your life, then your fears are going to probably prevail in your death. And hopefully it won't be as dark as it could be. So we're talking about practicing being the light now, today, this second. Being in the light of spirit here now. Being free of the darkness here now. So it's not just for the comfort of your physical incarnation that these teachings are given, but for the survival of your spiritual progression. Once the death experience releases you from the comforts of the flesh. The experience of death may be just the beginning of your problems. See, they may be the beginning of your real darkness if you're not mindful and careful now. See, preparing yourself by living a spiritual life, a good life, free of fear, which means free of gravity, which means free of earthboundness. We have to recognize earthboundness as a not so good thing, even while we're having a great time out here, right? In the world of entertainment and distraction, being earthbound is a different game when you're in the spirit or in the astral body. It's a different game. And there are powerful spirits out here who feed off of you. You are lunch for them. We have to understand the forces of the negative, the dark side, and what to do in our understanding of these, I guess you might say, entities, these processes, okay, these realities, so that we align ourselves with, let's say, the forces of spiritual enlightenment and mastership. Right, that is rising above these forces. Freeing ourselves from what it is that these forces prey off of, feed off of, and for themselves need to control. We need to rise above that. Vulnerability. We need to practice mastery in order to be living the life of invulnerability relative to the darkness and open receptivity to the spiritual forces of light, compassion, love, peace. Wisdom as your sword. That means knowing better. See, and the master as guide, so that you move closer to that and release yourself from all fears and all concerns and find your way more directly, immediately, to what is called paradise, the realm of the heart, the circle of the masters. See, and peace at last, peace at first. What is available right now from this center is a text written back around 1981, in that period of time, 81, 82, called The Sacred Knowing of Is, which is a doctrine of the spirits. And speaking directly to this issue of spiritual, not necessarily spiritual consciousness. See? And we're talking namely about bodilessness, selflessness in a manner of speaking, where you don't have an ego that's going to work for you in the same way. You don't have a body, you don't have family. You're in the spirit realm, subject to different laws, different programs, cosmic significance, earth laws. See, earth then becomes a very dark place. Earth is then purgatory in the worst way. The forces of evil are here. The forces of death are here. Cemeteries everywhere. So there's plenty of spirits that are hungry, looking for your fresh astral blood. Feed off you as the next lunch. The next kid on the block that can have the life scared out of them. The astral life scared out of them. So we have to understand the reality of this. And all real dharmas and all real wisdom schools, all true spiritual schools and spiritual works should address this issue of post-life, that is post-incarnation. Bardo, we use a word that's traditional now, reality. After death, reality. But that's also now, because we're talking about it now, so it's just as important now, because that's what we're becoming. And we're saying that's important because we're becoming what we've already been, and have to be again. And as we progress to infinite light and realization, we have to be prepared for the challenges ahead, basically. See? So we need enlightenment, or ensoundment, we need wisdom, we need technical knowledge in order to properly perceive and then thus process to a degree of balance, integration, and completion this knowledge relative to the forces of light and darkness that we can say are common to the Earth planet, the Earth plane itself. Because it's unique everywhere. Other planets, it's unique to them. See? They have their own scales, darkness and light. And as human beings, we have as much as we can handle here, presently. Maybe more than we can handle. That means we have a lot to master, put to peace, in terms of our need to know what lies ahead because of where we are now. It's kind of like a voyage. You have your vessel in the ocean, let's say, and you know you're going to be dealing with some great challenges. It's just understood. There's no way you're going to go for thousands of miles, let's say, without an incident. It's going to happen because you're in a dynamic universe. So you have to be prepared for night and day on various levels, high and low, light and dark. See? That is to say, the universe, see? Cosmic field, the yin and the yang. So it is important to include in a person's spiritual practice some understanding of the spiritual realm that we are part of. We are related to ancestry, spirits that are presently around us, manifesting in various ways to us, if not obviously physically, then certainly psychically and astrally. See? We get whisperings. We have ears to receive what is from the spiritual and the astral, the causal, the memory. We have ears in the mind. We have ears. We have inner ears and we have physical ears. Physical perception and astral and psychic perception is continuous for all of us, even though we comfort ourselves with distractions. You're still getting it. You got to remove your distractions to recover, like you do your emails. You got to recover the messages. If not, you have to be in an environment where someone's speaking to you concerning those messages that you are ignoring because of your time, space, energy, matter, karmic responsibilities, obligations, or trips. Which are good, but they're not critical. They're preoccupational and, let's say, well, coincidental. The fact that you're on the planet, you got to be working, you got to be working and distracted by your work. But there's deeper, more powerful business to take care of than all of that. So we need to get back to spiritual wisdom and spiritual receptivity that cuts through the earthly tendency to ignore the spiritual, the materialistic tendency to obscure the spiritual, to force it to the rear, press it down, as if it's insignificant when you are first and foremost a spirit. Attempting to recover some of your spiritual nature and your spiritual power, which if you leave it to other sleeping beings, more human zombies, and not as characterized in Hollywood, but people who are numb to the spiritual, dead to the spiritual and the psychic, because of their materialism, because of their grossness, because of their ignorance. You want to push that aside once you can recognize, say, I have to get back to reality, because I'm going to die. Because my people are going to die and I'm not going to know a thing about it or what's going on with that. Huh? Your peeps are dying and they're going to die. And you are left in ignorance. Oh, they just died. That's it? They just died? That's it? That's all? That's the beginning. There's a continuum. We need to be aware of the fact that there's a continuum. They don't just die. They pass over. Into what? Into where? Into why? See? Spirits. Awake or spirits asleep? We need to be awake. That's why you're here. To wake up. Wake your mind up. Wake your heart up. Wake your spirit up. Wake your intelligence up. See, to do the right thing, to be aware, to be sensitive. See, to be much more in the service of what it is that we call the spiritual. And that includes the spiritual. And not to forget these things. Because you may regret forgetting when you don't have to. Pay attention. Step up. See? Know for yourself. Do the right thing. Hugh. A responsible culture and society has to make it clear to the peeps what the realities are. And so if the society is bound to materialistic doctrine and law, which is a lie, which is purely maybe relatively true and relevant at the physical level, but not at the subtle levels of consciousness, certainly not at the spiritual levels, then we have a big problem. We have a country out of control. We have a nation out of control. We have a culture that's in darkness, see? And to just leave it to your choices and your preferences of religion isn't enough. That's not enough. See? It's not enough. Because your religions and your so-called spiritual doctrines, short of true spiritual knowledge of the hierarchies of spirits, even in regards to the teachings of Jesus, who was an exorcist, who dealt with evil spirits and all the rest of that, darknesses, disincarnate spirits, we're talking about people being in trouble. They have no compass. No compass. So we need common sense wisdom here and subtle intelligence as part of leadership at all levels of society. This is common sense. We understand that we go to sleep, but we don't understand what happens when we go to sleep. So this is a challenge for the psychologist and the psychiatrists who have to be responsible for the subtleties of intelligence and subtleties of the mind, and certainly we're talking psychology, then psychiatry, then what is the knowledge of the soul that they can speak of that validates or justifies their so-called authority in the field? What is it? What is it that the soul is? So it appears to me that what is necessary is the accumulation of all the knowledge from all the traditions concerning this thing called the soul, and try somehow to create a doctrine that could be applied to psychiatrists and psychologists in general in terms of the different levels of knowledge from different cultures pointing to the same thing. See? That something does not die. When the body dies, something remains. And it's not the self, it's not the ego. We'll have to call it a unit of awareness or some kind of consciousness, okay, that becomes the spiritual reality, or the spiritual, that means the spirit itself, when the body dies. And so we need to account for that. The spirits are extending from the human body at the time of death. That should be concrete knowledge by now. People are seeing spirits all the time. So we need to then address the issue that when you die, you're going to become a spirit, because the evidence overwhelmingly points to the fact. And that spirits have power and presence, and they have influence here beyond any doubt. They have influence over dreams, over living beings, and over life in many different forms. They can influence this world. They influence their own ancestry. They influence their descendants. So we are co-influencing each other. We are inter-influencing. See? We are mixing dimensions by nature. So all the dimensions then, basically out of common sense and native wisdom, have to be brought into the perspective that we as human beings are multidimensional beings, and when we pass from one dimension into another, and we need to be taken care of in the interdimensions as much as we are being taken care of in the physical dimensions. So there are certain traditions that already care for, let's say, the ancestry in a manner of speaking. Natives do care for the ancestry. And so we need to look at this to understand it in order to set people straight about what they need to prepare for when the time of death comes. So we are spirits, and we need to make changes in our lives to make sure that when we die, we're able to continue whatever it is a spirit continues based upon the highest knowledge available to us at this point, so that we can see the best results after passing, rather than more of what we're seeing on these programs, right? Where you have marooned, lost entities of all levels, even royalty, all levels of peeps, confused and lost in these conditions, these Bardo states, stuck, attached to things, attached to buildings. This is true, but it's unacceptable, because what they need is what humans need in this moment, and that's guidance. We need to be open to the kind of guidance that enables people to find peace. And if people have to be released from the astral, let's say, prisons that they're in, so we need to get busy doing that, and not just leave it to exorcists, not leave it to the few, when in fact we all have invested interest in that, because our ancestors, our loved ones, our deceased loved ones are subject to these things as well. We can't all put it on the back of Jesus or Buddha or enlightened beings to take care of them. No, it's part of our practice to be able to include whoever it is, everyone, in this process of best wishes, spiritual encouragement, and let's say direction towards the enlightenment, the heart itself. Hugh. Now, spirituality, as I mentioned in a recent talk, is really not about affiliation. It's not about association. Mere association doesn't protect you from your nonsense, your ignorance, and let's say your wrongdoings and your bad karma or your sins. See? Because you're continually associating with the universe. And that doesn't mean you're off the hook. Doesn't mean you're no longer responsible for what you've done, in a manner of speaking, what you've accumulated. So if you're associating with a certain kind of spiritual whatever or whomever it is, then you want to make sure you're acting on it to the degree of releasing yourself from karmas and patterns of karma that are darkness producing for yourself and for your people. So this is very clear. Knowing the Dalai Lama is good. Knowing the Pope is good, up to a point. But they're not showing up here to, free you because they show up from what you've done necessarily. That's in you, and that's something you, the individual, have to make good on yourself, regardless of who you're around or what company you keep. This is really between you and the forces of your blood. It's got nothing to do with anybody else, because they're not responsible for your blood. You are. Because you've used the blood, you have indulged the blood, you have been the blood that has enabled you to do what you've done high and low in this life as it is. So it's up to you to do something about it that is good. You have to purify the negativity of your ancestry, of your own blood, and make good on it. That means you have to rise up to a level where your vibrations change from the darkness, pain, and suffering to something more beautiful. We're talking then about enlightenment. Happiness, healing, and the freedom that comes with elevation of consciousness. That's practice. Only practice can do this. So it is not who you know, it's what you do. And we have very little time in which to do it when we're talking about one lifetime. So we need to get busy, serious about it. Otherwise, inevitably, you're walking down the path of regret. Who needs to do that? Who loves their peeps enough that they need to walk down the path of regret and just add more regret to a life full of regret, errors, mistakes, unhappiness, misery, tragedy, and all the rest of that? See? So we need to upgrade this whole process by knowing more about the reality of the spirits and knowing this as a good thing. It's something good to talk about, something good to understand, something good to work with, see? Something good to honor, and something good to enlighten people about. And that's what the practice is, right? Sharing enlightenment, sharing wisdom, see? Very critically useful, proper knowledge with others to make a big difference in their life, liberating them from ignorance and mistakes and unhappiness. See, then we're doing the right thing here for ourselves and for our people. Shoo. See, many of us have dealt with the spirits. When we watch these programs that are now popular in the world, we say, yeah, we know this already. See, we feel okay with that because what we're seeing is true. It's actually happening. And it's also sad at the same time because we're looking at a problem. And it's because of human nature, materialism, and attachment that people continue after this life being attached. And we see it. You're seeing it in these programs. So these programs, even though they're more concerned about the ratings than anything else, are offering a service to those who don't know any better. Because they're talking about your ancestors. They're talking about your loved ones who have deceased and who are stuck. And since you lost contact with them since they left the body, then they're in the same predicament. Often. We don't know that Jesus or people like Jesus, beings like Jesus, are going to connect with them. We don't know that they can connect with such higher entities. We don't know that. Okay? We cannot assume it. We can't assume that they're even on earth. Some of them may go lower than the earth. We can't assume that they're going to heaven either. We don't know that yet until they show up and give us proof. As in the case of my mother, who showed up 5 years after her passing with in the presence of heaven saying, I finally got here. This is so good. 5 years after she passed. Who knows what that means? Clearly what was indicated, she was moving, she was traveling, she was experiencing and progressing, moving towards something, and then she got there. And she was happy. See? And since she was that kind of living spirit, who wanted the truth more than anything else, she wanted to know what was true about it, she had questions about Christianity and religion and all the rest of that. Not about Jesus, that's a personal relationship, but about the systems that grew up around these people. See? She was concerned about it because of her own experiences. As a living spirit, but a sensitive living spirit, one with a certain type of psychic nature. This is needed to know what was true, not just what looked like truth. See? She didn't know what was really happening. And this is in all of us. There's a part of us that needs to know what's really happening in terms of our spiritual direction and our spiritual, destiny. Our spiritual reality. See? And we're not talking about just religion. This is beyond religion, because religion is basically a theoretical introduction of what could be for some people and maybe not for other people. See? And religion prepares you about things that are talked about in terms of future possibilities, when in fact we are already what that thing is, and we're already in our future, but we don't see it. We're creating our future as we speak. We are our future. That's why it's important to practice something, so that in the continuum after death, that something may have more reality. And this is true to what the ghost hunters and the ghost adventurers and all these people are finding out about these beings that they're using for entertainment. That they're stuck there in the circumstances of their passing. Often, this is not absolute, this is relative, and these beings need to be confronted, they need to be talked to, and often, even on these programs, these beings are crying for help. Help me, please help us. We need help. See? Well, where's the help coming from? So we need to, in effect, pray for these peeps, which is part of a Christian, maybe Catholic, doctrine. Part of their training is to pray for the souls in purgatory. This is purgatory. That means for others. See, we need to help them. We need to care enough about it. Our hearts have to go out to all peeps. This is also part of the Bodhisattva training and the yogi trainings in the East, which is our training. So it's not about East, West, North, South. It's our nature as human heart beings to care about others. So one of the themes in the recordings yesterday was about whether you care enough. Who cares? Whose heart is there? Who's putting out their heart for other peeps? See, it's great to be taking care of yourself and be the best, the king or queen of selfishness. Okay, that's a trip. And it plays out. Then what? Is there no more than that? Is it just you? Right? Is it just your limitations, your egoic sort of interest and desires and ambitions? Is that all? What about the universe? Never mind yourself. See? What about itself? We got to move from self to itself in order to expand into what our potential is as being part of the universe at a heart level. See, then we're making sense. Then we're doing what we were here to do. Then we may be practicing the ascent and the potential we have to become higher and also very good spirits. See? Very good spirits. Heart beings. See? That's why I say, even though it's a long shot, people, brothers and sisters out here, good spirits, here, there, and everywhere. Heart first. Heart first. Heart first. Hugh. Hugh. Listen, please care for others. Please care. Okay? There are others all around you that need help. You have to care. Okay? Do for yourself, but also do for others. And remember, more than anything else, there are spirit others that need help. See? They need help from you, from me, and from all of us. So please care. Please remember others, spirits, and your family spirits, your deceased ones. Please remember them. See? Please encourage them to move up, step up, go towards the higher spiritual. Please do this. See? It's part of your heartfulness to do this. Your heart nature demands that you do this for other beings. This is good practice. This is also compassionate service. May the blessings be you. What I have called heart fire sound and the music thereof is the same message. Caring. Please, people, care. Care. Before it's too late. Before you are entering the path, going down the path of regrets. Go up the path of no regrets. See, and care first. See? Care in a way of compassion where it's really healing, self-healing, and generating more healing for the peeps. When I'm playing music, when I'm picking that guitar, it's the same message. There's no difference. When I'm speaking to the peeps, it's always the same message. My presence is this message. Spirit first, heart first. You don't have to like me and my karma. This is not about what I appear to be. This is a universal message coming through me as a medium to all peeps throughout the whole world, throughout the universes, that I got it, I know it, and I have to speak it and find resonance in reality with other beings who see similarly, who are similarly disposed, who need to hear it to reinforce their own idea of what it is, to build the force necessary to do the right thing, and that is to be completely aware of the spiritual and the spiritual. Right? Not to be incarcerated, stuck in these mind forms of materialism that make you helpless regarding others. Oh, I can't help anybody else. Blah, blah, blah. I can't. You have to get out of your can't syndrome and get into, no, I will. In your thought, because it's not about just what you do. What you do is important, but what you need to do is open the channels of awareness first and foremost, so that you can at least speak it, at least think it, at least understand it, at least imagine it, see? At least hear it. So that it can be done to whatever degree possible. So the music is a continuum. The sound and the emotion from the astral plane is part of this continuum, so I have to play this message, not for myself, but for the sake of others. It's the sacrifice that's needed, and that's part of the mastery, is to give up yourself, see, so that the pure can come through, so that there's more of the pure out here that others can more or less identify with and attempt to practice and realize for themselves, so that there's more, even more and more pure out here, pure intention, compassion, light that is considering the spirits, all of them, past, present, and future, the whole cosmos of spiritual reality, see, which is what we're here to realize and enjoy, see, empower others to participate in, and to rise in, see? And that means also rise in the infinite intelligence, which this is part of. The spiritual mind is infinite intelligence and infinite wisdom, see? And that's where the highest and greatest and most perfect and masterful healing comes from. That wisdom, understanding where your mind and your body and your heart are brought to peace, complete peace. See? Pure being. And from there you do what you need to do in the spirit of pure being. This is not personal. This is completely, utterly impersonal heart word. Hugh. Loving is great. Self-loving is great. But please, beyond that, love one another. See, with the greatest dignity, the highest dignity possible. See, with the space of grace. See, love one another with the space of grace. Allow people to be. Allow them to practice. See? Allow them to finish their karmic debts out here. See? As a matter of fact and as a matter of grace, give it to peeps. See, to do what they have to do so that they can move on and then move up eventually once they finish certain things that they're preoccupied with or more or less determined to complete for themselves, or even if they're caught up in it, they have to go through that. See, eventually everything wears down. See, let them go through their changes, but live the path of spiritual uplift, and stepping up into the higher levels of spiritual awareness, the light of the divine, see? Enlightenment. See? Be true to that. See? And so therefore, we must say, love one another in spirit. See? Love all beings in the same spirit. See? Let the heart have its way. See? That's the way of beauty. That's the beauty path. Hugh.